Members of the academia all over the world who are attending this roundtable are people from Alaafin, people from around Osun, Kwara, Oyo states here present, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My own is not a lecture. It's a combination of a tribute and a commentary on the late Alaafin. The organizers of this event themed it Alaafin Adeyemi III, the end of an era. I've been asked to speak very briefly on Alaafin Adeyemi III, an epilogue. Epilogue suggests the end, a conclusion to what has happened. It denotes closure of and the end of an era. The journey of an Alaafin starts with his coronation at Kosho, where his inner head is fused with those of his fathers, those the Yoruba call the Alasiku, the ones who did it and left the baton for others to carry on. An Oba is allowed to choose how he wishes to be remembered. How he achieves this depends on the quality of what he puts in the years between the beginning and the end. This is a roundtable and a day of tribute for Oba Lamidi, Olayiwola Adeyemi III, Alaafin of Oyo. I have scanned through the sub-themes of this conference. There are 19 in total. Each of the items there speaks directly to how Oba Adeyemi conducted the business of Oyo and the institution of the Alaafin. The items encompass an examination of how he comported himself on the throne throughout his engagement with Oyo and with the Yoruba, home and abroad. I could see items on his tastes as a man of culture, his intellectual, national and global engagements, his politics, his women, the Gbedu drum, and Kabiesi's dance steps. There are others. As an observer of the departed king, I have no problem in saying that if the Oba was a messenger of the gods, he successfully delivered the message, and he did not forget to go back home with the ancestral plates unbroken, safe and clean. Baba Gbonje Fegbe, Alaafin Adeyemi Gbawo Bowale. The institution of Obaship in Yoruba land today goes through agonizing stress and strains. There is a reason an Oba is deemed second only to the gods. That reason is receding and everyone is helpless, or we are just too busy with existential matters to be bothered. With a friend, I had several fruitful engagements with Alaafin Adeyemi in recent years. Those meetings showed us how very worried he was at the quality of millennia occupants of Yoruba thrones. There is a systemic and systematic devaluation of values attached to the thrones. We saw it in Oba Adeyemi's words and in his sighs, how alarmed he was that the ancestors might desert the palaces in anger in the next 2 decades unless there was a halt to the drift. Professor Falola, in his opening remarks here this morning, warned that the process of the appointment of the next Alaafin must not be corrupted. I understand where he's coming from, and I understand his concerns. We are all worried. We should all be worried. And I addressed this concern in a May 2nd, 2020 article on Yoruba Oba and their behavior. This is the way I put it in that piece. And I quote, I take your permission to quote myself. In character and comportment, a king in Yoruba land is not allowed to roam freely. He must not struggle with the leash imposed by his culture. Where a king breaks loose, the land bleeds in shock, angst, and revulsion. A king is no more than the principal trustee to his people's past and present. He is also a bridge to the future. A man has no private, personal journeys once he becomes an Oba. The decision to lead from the traditional realm is a voluntary immolation of personal causes and causes. An Oba must move shoulder to shoulder with his people in destination and destiny. The elaborate seen and unseen rituals and rites of installation, including the wearable apparels, particularly the crowns, cement the fusion of destinies. The late Orangon of Ila, Oba Williams Adetona Ayeni, put it in a very elegant way. He told a researcher on July 29, 1977 in his palace that when a man becomes an Oba and he receives the ancient crown on his head, then quoting Oba Ayeni, he said the Ori of the crown and the Ori of the man are brought together. Then the Ashe of the crown is bound to the head of the man. Oba Ayeni said it was at this point that the man becomes an Oba, and he must obey all the rules of the realm. Kingmakers have a big central role to play in making the institution of Obaship in Yoruba land survive the buffetings of today. Adeyemi was a Yoruba patriot who was very concerned about the security of his people. He was vocal and methodical about challenges of security in Yoruba land, especially in the last 1.5 decades. We met with him very regularly in the last 2 years. The theme of his private discussions with us was always security. He expressed apprehension very often on the menace of a strange strain of the Fulani who kidnapped, maimed, and killed from Ibarapa through Oyo to Okeogun, part of Yoruba land. He was bitter that the felons appeared to be above the law and that they flaunted that fact of their invisibility. The late Alaafin told us, two of us with a friend, is here, Festus Adedayo, that the best set of people to monitor and apprehend these criminals were their tribesmen, those who are born and bred around here. So he appointed heads for Fulani communities and charged them to submit periodic reports of happenings around them. He showed us records of the reports contained in several files. If any of the appointees derailed, Kabiyesi Adeyemi will remove him and cross out his name in the file. The replacement appeared under that one, while he said he continued monitoring the new appointee. He kept files on everything around him. There was a file on victims of Fulani attacks. This one contained details of who the victims were, their photographs, and what they suffered. If a victim was kidnapped and ransom was paid to secure his or her freedom, Adeyemi recorded the amount paid and how the money was raised, and while he pursued justice for the victim. Adeyemi should not have died now, not when the battle is still on and the enemy is unrelenting. Adeyemi's last words at my book launch in Ibadan, February 8, 2022 were, and I quote him, "We will all go, but before we go, we must do something to rescue Nigeria and pull it back from the precipice where it is presently," unquote. What that tells us is that the late Alaafin might be a fiercely loyal Yoruba patriot, but was also a Nigerian nationalist with a large dose of optimism on the future of Nigeria. Those words of his suggest that despite all we are seeing today, the country can still be saved. That was his belief. I don't know how his optimism will work going forward. Indeed, his last intervention on Nigeria is a 12-page treatise he entitled Federalism and the Nigeria of Our Dreams. He signed it for distribution on February 9, 2002. Some of the dignitaries, some of the Kabiyesis here at this event received the write-up from the late Oba, some on the very day that he transited. The journey of life may be long and sweet. It may be very short and sour like that of Alaafin Lamidi, whose reign lasted just 17 days. It may be long and event for a few like Alaafin Lamidi Adeyemi, who was in charge of Oyo for 52 years. No matter how long or how short, the journey must end, and the place of rest for the Alaafin is with the ancestors in the vaults at Bara. Robert Smith, in his 1965 seminar paper titled The Bara of Royal Mausoleum at New Oyo, reproduced a saying among àwọn ará Ọ̀yọ́. He said, "Kò so ní yá ọba rè, Bara ò sí bọ́ba lọ." At the beginning of the reign, the Alaafin goes with drum and flute to Kosho for his coronation. At the end of the sojourn in power, the king's remains moved to Bara in a procession of grief to join the streams of his fathers. Death is personal to the dead. There is a point we get to as we follow the dead, and we fear to go any step further. When we reach that point, there is a way our ancestors inform the departed of the finality of separation. They say, and I will say here, Kábíyèsí, mo sì ní ilé ìgbà mi, àsìkò tó ó padà lẹ́yìn, ó di gbére, àwo sí, àwo lọ. Àtàndá rẹ̀.